I'm Jason Klamm, and this is the Comedy on Vinyl podcast. The year is 1978. The album is Wild and Crazy Guy. The artist Steve Martin, and my guest is Donna Lynne Champlin. Thank you so much for being here.
Of course, I'm thrilled to take this trip down memory lane for sure.
First of all, I'm obviously a big fan of Crazy Ex-Girlfriend,
Oh,
and thank you for the
yay.
show.
Oh, well.
And for being delightful on it.
Oh, you're sweet. I have nothing to do with the show. It's all Rachel Bloom and Aline Brosh McKenna, but I will take it anyway. I will pass it on to the ladies.
Well, thank you. You are now our third guest from the show. Rachel did the show before the show ever happened. She did. She was on here a couple times. Yeah.
Weird Al Yankovic, right?
Mm-hmm,
yes. You know, and they she went to go see his recent show, and he invited her backstage, and it blew her mind.
Of course
I think
it
we
did.
were on set when she kind of got the email that was like, you know, come back and say hi.
Oh.
And like, it was just awesome to just see her.
I was hoping that would happen.
Oh,
frankly.
her brain exploded. It was
Yay,
awesome.
That's amazing. Well deserved. So, you picked Wild and Crazy Guy.
I did. Steve Martin.
Why?
Well, growing up, you know, I might have an older brother. He's 4 years older than me.
Mm-hmm.
And he was allowed to watch Saturday Night Live, but I was not.
Okay.
So if we're talking like 1978, maybe 79 by the time we actually got our hands on this album.
Mm-hmm.
That makes me, like 8 years old. So he was 12. So he was just allowed to watch television. And so he had seen... I just called my brother like this morning, and I was like, okay, refresh my memory as to how this all happened. He had seen Steve Martin on Saturday Night Live.
Sure.
And I think as a present, my mom had gotten him the album.
Awesome.
And so he was listening to it in his room, and I heard King Tut from like, you know, down the stairs.
Of course.
And I came running up the stairs. I was like, oh, what is that? That's amazing. And because he had seen the routine, he started to do the King Tut dance. And I distinctly remember this moment of like, this merging of who is this amazing man singing King Tut on this album, and my brother is like the coolest person on the planet.
That's so good. Oh my God.
Yeah, and I'm just, I'm looking at the album right now, and I remember sitting there, and so we listened to the whole thing, and just the cover of it, he's got bunny ears on, so like as an 8-year-old, I was like, this guy's amazing. He wears bunny ears.
It is a really great cover. Like the one that, like I said, most people pick Let's Get Small, which happens to be my favorite too. And I do love the cover. It's on the wall.
Oh, right.
But I am partial to the style of this one, and I love the bunny ears a whole lot.
Well, talking about the style of this one, it's interesting to listen to it now as an adult, because I listened to it recently, in anticipation of this podcast. There are moments that as an adult, I'm listening to it now, remembering as a kid being completely confused.
I bet.
Or trying to figure out, like, what was he doing live that we can't see? And there gets this. And one of the most amazing things is I didn't realize, of course, as a child, that this is a compilation. Am I correct?
It is, basically. It's two different locations.
It's a small house, and then it's a huge house.
Yeah.
And so, like, in the middle of the album, there's this point where the audience all of a sudden sounds huge and goes completely crazy, screaming and applauding, and then he says, oh, is that for me? And I remember my brother and I were constantly trying to figure out what hilarious thing that he had done that previously, up until that point, it sounded like only 20 people were laughing.
Right. Yeah.
We never put it together. It was two separate locations and two distinctly different size houses.
It's so good. It's also nice to hear not the same material. So it sounds like it's two totally different shows too that he's doing.
And you can also feel like, as an artist, one is very it feels like anyway, where the smaller house is much more, he does a lot more of his philosophy stuff.
Yeah.
He doesn't do a lot of funny voices.
Right.
He hasn't, I don't even know, but it sounds like his catchphrases perhaps hadn't been cemented. And then the second half is all, he even makes a joke about it, that he's famous for Wild and Crazy Guy, and then the guy who's trying to pick up the lady, and the two Wild and Crazy Guy, and then of course King Tut, and he makes a joke that, like, there comes a point when an artist needs to move on and evolve, and then he just uses it as a segue to do all of the greatest hits.
Good.
But it is funny. It sounds almost like two different guys.
Yeah, it's a good point. I hadn't thought about that, and it had not occurred to me too, because I think I was reading up on it before I re-listened to it, that the bit, there's a beautiful transition where he's talking about, I just want to make $2 million a show. And
then
I'm out.
bam.
Bam. That's right. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
whenever my brother and I were like, what did he do that got that huge laugh all of a sudden? It's, it's funny because I remember as a kid, I preferred the second half because it was funny voices and it was accents and it was, the big song.
Yeah.
But as an adult, listening to it again, I actually prefer the first half now.
I get that. Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Obviously as a kid, a lot of the jokes went over my head.
Of course,
philosophy and, sexual innuendo and stuff. But I still do remember getting a lot of it. I think one of the reasons why I grew up in an Irish Catholic household, pretty strict. And now listening to it, I'm kind of shocked that my mom actually bought the album because it has like a couple swear words in it. But when you think about the contemporaries at that time, he was actually, really quite classy. Yeah. A lot of the other, like, what was Sam Kinison, maybe a little bit later, but
but still,
there was a very crass kind of way stand-up comedy was going. And he is actually rather refined.
I know, and
intellectual. Which I think is probably how it squeaked into our Irish Catholic house.
I mean, you're right. It's that. The subject matter is super intellectual, and then on top of that, it's like the characters are so anti-intellectual because he's acting like an idiot the whole time, and it's kind of beautiful. And so it seems goofy and appropriate for kids. I
have to tell you, I have to share something. When I was doing some research as well for today, I just looked up this album on like Amazon.com, and I looked at the reviews because I always love to see what people have to say. And there was one just made me laugh so hard. This person gave it like a 1-star review because they were like, I don't know, but Steve Martin sounds really full of himself. And I literally was like, oh my God, like the whole album you just didn't get it. Like that's the joke. Wow. That he's a complete idiot, but thinks he's.
Oh my God.
But it was just really, really funny because that's, of course, like one of my favorite parts about it.
Yeah.
Is this guy who just, thinks he's such an intellectual and then says the most ridiculous, insane, ignorant stuff.
That's so good. Did you from there? I mean, here's the thing. It'd be funny to be. It's a weird question. I normally say, "Well, did you listen to more of his stuff?" Well, at that point, he's a piece of pop culture for the next 20 years and unavoidable.
Well, exactly. And I was always a fan of Steve Martin, and I don't even think I ever put it together that it was the same guy that I listened to on the album. Although I was fascinated. Just purely taking a trip down memory lane, that he had white hair and he was so young.
Yeah.
I remember as a kid, I was baffled by that and thought it was so exotic and cool. But yeah, I mean, actually, I was I had a chance to work with Steve Martin.
That's awesome.
Just 4 or 5 years ago, I did a production of As You Like It at Shakespeare in the Park in New York, and he composed music. He was our composer.
Wow.
And so it was this incredible moment where, he was in rehearsal and he mostly just dealt with the music stuff, but I had a scene or whatever, and he just came up to me and he said, do you mind if I, give you a suggestion as to how to make that funnier? And I literally was like,
holy shit.
As soon as I pick up the pieces of my brain from the ceiling that you're even talking to me, just give me a moment and go.
Oh my God.
But he's lovely. He's, and it's just... I also remember listening to this album as a kid. You hear the banjo fiddling that he does, but it never turns into an actual tune.
That's true. Yeah.
I remember being so frustrated by that as a kid, thinking, why is he teasing us with this awesome banjo music? And then there isn't like a banjo. Where's the banjo song?
That's a good point. I'd forgotten because in Let's Get Small, there's at least 2 times where he plays a full song.
Yeah. It's just noodling. You just hear him kind of noodling on it. But he's such a brilliant musician. I mean, I think he's, one of our modern day jack of all trades.
Sure, yeah.
He's got this philosophy degree and he's a brilliant playwright and he's a fabulous composer. And now he just had, it's not Swinging on a Star. Oh, Bright Star. He just had a show debut on Broadway.
Oh, shit. I did not even know that.
Yeah, it's called Bright Star, I'm pretty sure. It started at the Old Globe and then it transferred. And, his movie career, obviously, I mean, and I do find just as an actor as well, I think that he... has a particular insight that I would imagine his stand-up comedy gives him, his brand of stand-up comedy, which is the first half of this album is on the dry side.
Yeah.
And then the second half is on the wild and wacky side. And I think that informs his comedy as an actor.
Yeah, I
very
get that.
much so. Mm-hmm. When you think of his roles of like, the dad in what's that, the Elizabeth Taylor remake?
Oh crap.
My Daughter's Getting Married, or whatever that one is.
Father of the Bride.
Father of the Bride.
There we go.
He pretty much plays a straight man.
That's
in
true,
that.
yeah.
But then you see Three Amigos, and he's completely bananas. Mm-hmm. But no, it's hard to not be a fan of Steve Martin in one capacity at the very least.
Sure. So is this the first comedy album you remember being in the house, or was there other stuff? Is this like the first thing that hit you?
This is the first thing that I actually remember committing to from beginning to end.
Okay.
Like, I have a distinct memory of lying on my brother's shag carpet. Mm-hmm. Yes, I'm that old. And just lying there on the floor with him and just listening to it play and just laughing to the point where my stomach hurt.
Yeah.
And I, again, a lot of the stuff went over my head, but a lot of the stuff didn't, because it was, there was, especially the second half was just very, very goofy and crazy, and funny voices always make kids laugh.
Of course.
I knew we had a lot of Monty Python in the house.
Okay.
My brother had a few of those albums. And it's also because I'm from upstate New York. I'm from Rochester. So we used to get the snowy Canada channels.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So, we used to watch Monty Python and SCTV and all those sketch comedy shows on the, the very snow. You had to move the rabbit ears just so.
Just right, yeah.
And the planets had to be aligned. But, so that's kind of how that kind of English/European/Canadian comedy sensibility entered into my brother's consciousness, and then he would get the albums.
Yeah.
I don't think I was allowed. The first record I was ever allowed to buy was Olivia Newton-John's Let's Get Physical. I think I was in the 8th grade or something. But yeah, because I don't know if it was because I was a girl or we were an Irish Catholic house, but my brother was the only one allowed to have the comedy album.
But he still snuck some quote unquote dangerous shit past him, it sounds like.
A little bit, because I do remember him, like, us having secret, like, I don't know if this, I might be wrong, but I keep thinking it's Sam Kinison. It was somebody who swore very much. Mm-hmm. And I actually remember leaving the room thinking, oh my God, I'm just, I'm going to go to hell just for even listening into this. But yeah, no, I mean, there's something about Steve Martin also kind of has that weird kind of dad quality.
Yeah.
In the first in the first half, where he's like, I'm an intellectual and I like to I like to talk about very smart things, and even that riff, God, that one riff about smoking pot, which I again did not understand what pot was, but I knew smoking was bad.
Yeah.
And it was like, I only smoke in the very late evening, and then in the middle to late evening, and then he basically names like the whole day. I remember that was one of my favorite bits as a kid. I just thought that was hilarious.
It's a perfect escalation. Like, it's a perfect misleading. Like, I get that. A kid would understand it, even if they don't know what pot is. They're just like, oh, that's bad. But it's funny. That's funny that he keeps doing the bad thing.
And everybody gets cat handcuffs.
I
mean, that's a joke for the ages.
It really is.
At 8 years old, I could see how it was funny to put 2 handcuffs just on the front paws of a cat. That's hilarious.
It's funny just describing it.
But it's funny. I have a 5-year-old son, and in listening to this album again, especially the King Tut, I mean, all I could think was like, oh my God, my kid would love this.
Yeah.
And listen to the lyrics of King Tut again. There's nothing vulgar about it at all. It's just a really good hook. Mm-hmm. It's a great musical hook. I mean, I think wasn't that the band that was the Blues Brothers?
God, I think so.
They're called. I think I looked at they're the King Toot and the Untouchables, or what is it?
Oh, King Toot and the Uncommons.
On the Uncommons, that's what it is.
There we go. I'm gonna have to look up.
But I'm thinking I read.
You could be right.
I'm not quite sure, but I think in my sort of poking around on Google about this album was that this came about because he did some sort of concert with John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd as the Blues Brothers, and then as his sort of number to participate in, they came up with this King Tut thing, and it was because he was kind of moonlighting on a Blues Brothers show.
That's
when
crazy.
They were under the radar.
This I had no idea. That's amazing.
Now don't take it as gospel, but I seem to recall looking at that today, going, "Oh, that makes a hell of a lot of sense."
It does. I mean, it's those people were all hanging out. One of my favorite jokes in this whole bit, the whole album, and it's so stupid, but it's the kind of thing that I would have loved as a kid is. where he talks about yelling movie in a crowded firehouse, and it's just so dumb. But
see, but I mean, it's that. I think that's where his philosophy degree comes in, and even as a playwright, you know, what is it, La Pinagile? It's what's the beginning, Picasso, the La Pinagile or whatever. You know, a lot of the stuff that he writes that I know as an actor from his, you know, his plays and his. And even just his like op-ed pieces that you see pop up here and there, his tweets even.
I know, yeah.
You know, it's very much that philosophical, what if kind of thing, not presented in a what if.
Yeah.
Which just makes it all the more funny.
Sure.
You know, the abstract or the twisting or the opposites or the, you know, it's a thinking person's game.
Yeah, it really is, and that's what makes the goofiness just so much more delightful.
Well, and also if you listen to it just as a comic, you know, I'm just speaking as someone who's like a comic actor, somebody who does comedy. There's kind of nothing more satisfying than because I've done a little bit of stand up, not much, but there's kind of nothing more satisfying than telling a joke and taking the breath to move on to the next joke and then having them get it. There's something really satisfying about having an audience need to take a moment and then catch up collectively.
Right.
Because, you know, you can land the obvious joke, which obviously, you know, set up, shabam, laugh. You know, but if you're kind of doing the stuff that he does, which is you have to think about it for a second.
Right.
You have to stay 1, 2, 3 steps ahead.
Yeah.
And be prepared to move right along. He actually, I wish I had taken a note. But he does have a joke in there that it goes completely over everyone's head. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do, and I was listening to this in the car, so I didn't get to
and there was
note
a joke.
it.
I should have written it down. Okay, this is for you listeners out there. This is your your Easter egg hunt. Is there's an obvious one, a very subtle joke that is hilarious that the entire audience misses, and you can hear him click it. Realize they're not going to get it. He gives them an extra second, and he blows right on to the next one.
Right.
Which is kind of one of the golden rules of comedy, is that if you, and even somewhat in stand-up, you know, is if the audience sees the joke coming from a mile away, you're already lost.
Sure.
You got to stay one step ahead, but you can't kind of wait for that laugh.
Right.
Because then you end up with like egg omelet frittata on your face.
100%, yeah.
So the key to comedy is sort of an authenticity of somebody not going for a laugh. Whether you are or not, whether you're crafting it, massaging it. But he's a master at that, where it just kind of feels like he's, you know, having a conversation. I think the first like 10 minutes of this album sounds as if he's babbling.
I know.
And you know he's not. Like, you know, this is the stuff that he is. He even says, I've been doing the same shtick. This is my last night in San Francisco. And there's nothing more exciting than somebody saying the exact same words over and over and over again.
Right, for 4 weeks straight.
And then he does make another joke where he's like, I will get to the actual meat of the comedy in a minute. But it's just that kind of brilliant observation on turning a stand-up act into kind of a one-sided conversation.
Yeah.
While trying to be oblivious to the fact that he's obviously not it's oblivious at all.
Yeah, it's so true. And I like that he manages to be successfully meta and kind of dada in a way that Andy Kaufman, don't get me wrong, he had his thing and people love him in certain circles, but he did not have this, you know.
Well, he didn't have the mainstream.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, here's the thing, you know, as an entertainer, you know, and an artist, you know, there are very fine lines. And I worked with a really brilliant director once. His name is Hal Prince, and in the theater world, he's like our god. I don't know if your audience is into the theater so much, but just trust me, he's like the head honcho director of all time. And I remember once, you know, we had done a show in Chicago, and we had tried it out in Chicago, and we wanted to move it into Broadway. And we had gotten some really great reviews in Chicago, but we'd gotten some really great critiques that, you know, Hal took to heart. And I remember him saying very distinctly, he said, you know, you can, the goal is art, but if it's not at some level entertaining, what are we doing it for?
Yeah, right.
You know, because you can bring an audience in and have them elevate their consciousness, but you have to do it without them knowing it.
100%.
They have to walk out elevated, but not have any idea how it happened.
Right.
And I always remember that you know, as an actor and as somebody who does comedy, you know, if you're going to do something meta, if you're going to do something Dada, if you're going to, you know, go out into the hinterlands of something, you have to stay solidly tethered to the center bullseye so that it has a point.
Right.
Because if you go too far off the rails, then it's really just, you know, an exercise in masturbation.
100%.
If you'll allow
that was
me.
exactly what I was going to say too. That's 100%
you know,
right.
It's and we've all been there. We've all seen those shows. We've all seen those stand-up acts.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's a very, very tricky thing that he does. And again, I'm a big fan of Andy Kaufman as well.
Sure.
But I feel like, you know, and you know, I'm sure a big part of Andy Kaufman had no desire.
Oh, yeah.
To entertain ultimately.
Right.
I think his main part of his desire was to elevate and evolve, and if you didn't, you know, fuck you, which was in itself fascinating.
Sure.
But I think one of the reasons why Steve Martin is so successful and has had such a long-term career in so many different facets, it's because I think he always remembers that at the very end of the day, you know, the point is to not alienate an audience, but to reach them in a new way and encourage them to maybe elevate their thoughts or their humor without making them feel like they're being schooled.
You know, the more you're talking about this, the more it's getting me thinking about, because he before this and before he was Steve Martin, he just wrote for the Smothers Brothers. And
did he really?
He did. And
I
what's
didn't
great
know
is
that.
if you watch some old clips, there's a great documentary called Smothered that came out probably 10 years ago, and it's all about the censorship battle. There's clips of him on the show though, playing a writer. And he's got fucking full black hair,
right?
Which is crazy. He went white quick and like instantly. But the idea that he worked on this show that was like notorious. I almost leaned away from the microphone. Notorious for being edgy and also being heavy in the pop culture. Eventually, and I think they know this, they went up their own ass a little bit. But at some point, they were exactly what you're talking about. This perfect confluence of pop and art. You know.
Yeah, which you know is a very, very delicate balance.
Yeah.
And you know, it's kind of an old school showman sensibility with a new school sort of liberal. I mean, I don't want to say liberal, but you know, that sort of philosophical, open-mindedness that I think is kind of amazing.
It's true.
As to what he does.
The episode we just did yesterday and like released immediately after, we were talking about another Steve Martin album, Comedy Is Not Pretty. But we also, because I had two people on, they decided to both do their own album. So we did George Carlin's Class Clown at the same time. Yes. And like they kind of, the more we're talking about it, the more I'm also realizing that there's this weird social significance, but it's so not on the surface at all here. Whereas we talked about it yesterday, Carlin was very much like, I have a thing to say. Sometimes you'd be a little heavy-handed. Yeah. There's you couldn't accuse Steve Martin of being heavy-handed.
You know, and here's the thing. What's also brilliant about him is if there's anybody that's a butt of a joke, it's him.
100%.
You know, and that's also another way to sort of invite an audience in. Yeah. They feel, you know, some audiences like to go to you know, to be abused. You know, that's part of the fun. Going to, I mean, I'm blanking on examples at the moment, but
Dangerfield,
right? Exactly. You know, they enjoy it. They enjoy the danger of, oh my God, are they going to point me out, or are they going to, you know? But with Steve Martin stuff, again, he was never vulgar. Yeah. Except for like I think on this album, just 2 exceptions. And what's brilliant about it is that he saves it. Yeah. So that when he does say the word fuck, or he does do a play on the word pussy, it has an effect.
I know.
You know, after a while, like even, you know, Eddie Murphy Raw, or you know, after a while, you just don't hear it anymore. And you just kind of get like desensitized. And so what's really great is he very, very, very specifically picks those 2 but with the intention that you're going to not forget it. Yeah. Because it would be so unusual. All of a sudden, this guy like says the word, you know, that cat was the best fuck of my life, or whatever he says, you know. But yeah, the fact that audiences can feel safe, you know, going into a Steve Martin show, I would imagine, like these, whereas that they always know that they're free to laugh at him, with him, at him, which is, you know, another really great kind of way to, oh my God. Can we talk about the nonconformity?
Yeah.
Oh. Now, so of course that went over my head when I was a kid. And of course I'm listening to it this morning and I'm laughing my balls off at it because You know, the whole like, I will, you know, now repeat after me and blah, blah, blah. I'm so happy to be here. I'm so happy to be here. Blah, 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 blah. Now repeat the non-conformity agreement, which is, you know, I will be unique. I will be unique. I will be different. I will be different. I will not repeat anything anybody tells me to repeat. I will.
And it dies so brilliantly. I love it.
But again, there's that pause.
Yeah.
There's that pause where where your audience doesn't, you know, just sit back. They're forced to, you know, they have to lean forward. They have to participate. Mm-hmm. And if they're not thinking, then, you know, they miss out.
And he's so willing to give them the dessert too. He's willing to do he does his character, the Saturday Night Live character twice. You know, he does a couple other bits that are like clearly
See,
like,
but that's a smart showman. You know, because, and that's also an artist who has his ego in check and knows that these people have come for that.
Sure.
So, you know, he gets to do the stuff he wants to do, and he gets to give them what they want. Mm-hmm. That's a smart showman.
For sure.
You know, and there's a lot of artists, I'm sure, who would just be like, you know, oh God, if I have to sing King Tut one more time,
right.
I'm a three-dimensional being. I have thoughts. I've evolved. That was 10 years ago. You know, an artist who's more insecure and has more ego-driven. Mm-hmm. Will, you know, but again, he uses that as a joke.
For sure.
He sets everybody up to think that he's one of those guys, and then he delivers.
Absolutely.
Which is, you know, brilliant.
Do you think it could just be me, and it could be the fact that it's hard to cut around a very loud audience as opposed to, but it seems like the second side, there's a lot of cutting around. Like, it seems like it was a much longer show with a bunch of shit we didn't get to hear.
Yeah.
It's like there are a lot of really bad cuts in it, which just happens. But
it was strange. And then, of course, as I'm listening to it, I'm remembering, they had to have tracks on the albums, didn't they?
Right.
Like, they kind of had to separate it. Mm-hmm. And it is, I mean, I would love to know the reasons why. Why did they cut that there? It sounds like he was in the middle of something.
Exactly.
What happened?
And I want to know what else was
I
up
know.
there.
I mean, there's so many things. It could have been a heckler. It could have been he, you know, said something that he thought, okay, that's fine for this house, but I don't want it to be like preserved forever.
Yeah.
Because, you know, have you ever done stand up?
No.
You know, I mean, you got to go, again, I'm talking limited personal experience. Mm-hmm. But, you know, to do successful stand up, even tangentially, what is that a noun?
Tangentially,
that's it. You know, you've got to open a part of your brain that leaves room for whatever happens. Like, I think even in the first half, like somebody brought their 2-year-old. What the hell?
I know.
Somebody brought their 2-year-old baby to a stand-up Steve Martin show, which apparently cost $4, which he mentions a lot.
Yeah. How old's that child? 2 years? I got a joke for him.
I got a great joke for her.
These two lesbians walking.
But again, see, that's the part of the brain when you're doing stand-up that always has to be open and active. And depending on, like, if you watch Kathy Griffin, where she hardly has any notes.
Right.
I would say she's 85% open for business, anything goes, and she just, whatever comes into her head comes out her mouth.
Sure.
It's a much more dangerous way of doing comedy,
100%,
which I would not imagine would be his jam. He seems to be like, I've got my highway, this is my turn off, this is my, if I need to go and get my car checked or more gas. But I think he's one of these guys who like really maps it out.
Yeah.
But you know, there is that part of the brain that's always got to stay alive and awake. Mm-hmm. And he, you know, you can hear that. And so I'm wondering, oh man, did he just kind of like, you know, did somebody, you know, is he reacting to something, or did he just go off on a tangent that he regretted?
Right. Yeah, that's a good call.
Which sounds unlikely, and yet, you know.
There is, I'm going to have to pull it up on my phone, so I'm not being rude. I'm going to pull up something that I think exists, and if I'm wrong, then I'm an idiot. But I'm going to pull something up here. But speaking, though, of hecklers, he does handle the one heckler that, it was not even a heckler. They just say something stupid.
You know, and I was thinking, just comparing hecklers from then to now, it was a very, you know, an innocuous, some dumb, like, you know, are you from Maine? It was something like, it was really... Like, compared to the hecklers now who are just borderline abusive.
He's lucky he's
or
not a woman.
Not even borderline, just completely abusive.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, look it up. But what did he say? What did the guy say?
I'm trying to find that. I'm trying to see. Is this son of a bitch? My apologies. I'm just. Oh, you know what? That's what this is. So, if you want to know what was on Steve Martin's mind as he's writing it, they released these limited like interviews that were basically podcasts on record. Somebody's like, hey, how did you write this special?
No.
My buddy Taylor takes a lot of albums and he remasters them out of his own pocket because he wants people to be able to hear them because you can't buy them anywhere.
That's
I'll send you a link to
amazing.
this so you can hear
yes,
it.
Please.
So it does exist. If you guys go to Fuji Puzzle Box, it's taylorjessen.blogspot.com. I'll put links in there. His stuff is amazing, and this is one that you should listen to because it's a perfect companion to this. But that's exactly, I want to find out exactly what we're talking about, like how much, because I do know he's very tightly planned this stuff, but there's so much in here, it sounds like clearly they cut some stuff out.
Yeah, definitely.
And
It's the stuff in the middle, and then it picks up in the middle.
And there's no way well, okay, I won't say there's no way, but I think there's very few plans. There's like, Grandpa's got a rubber. Like, I don't know that he planned it out when it was going in.
No, I think that's the part
you know?
where he was thinking, what's next, and that was the open part of his brain covering for him as he was Rolodexing. Mm-hmm. And you can hear him too. Actually, he does Rolodex.
Yeah.
Where he gets distracted by the baby.
Yes, that's right.
And he kills with that. I've got a great joke for her.
Yeah,
Two lesbians walking to a bar, but then he gets thrown off, and he Rolodex, and he goes. And he says, did I say this? Did I say this? Did I say this? Did I say that? Did I say this? Oh, yeah. And then this. And then, okay. And then he's back on track. But that's kind of why I think he is he's got a map. He's definitely a map user.
But he can use that forgetfulness as a bit, which is, Jesus,
brilliant.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I don't know how anybody... Good God.
But his response to that guy was something like, I remember when I had read my first book, or something like that.
My first beer. When I had my first
yes, I remember when I had my first beer.
That's so good.
And here's the thing. He's got such a mastery on delivery that it sounds like he's never said that before.
Yeah.
But
I know.
I mean, it's such a brilliant, and he must get, I would say, a heckler a night, maybe. Maybe it's more
think
now.
So. But at the time, it was way more... Probably more affectionate. Like, this guy didn't seem like he was being a dick.
No, he was clearly drunk.
Yeah,
he was clearly just
and
drunk
being
off his
silly.
ass.
Yeah.
Wanting to play.
Uh-huh.
And he didn't shut him down. He just, was like, oh, you're adorable.
Yeah, right. Moving on.
Yeah, it's different now. I don't know if this is off topic, but I just read an article about a comedian who kind of left the business. I forget if he was at UCB or something. Asian American comedian who, I guess the heckling for him, just especially in recent months, has become incredibly abusive and racially related. And he talks about heckling, which is what I was thinking about when I listened to this guy, go, hey, I love you. That's what heckling kind of used to be.
Yeah.
So you could respond, very blithely with, but I guess heckling now has become
that's insane.
A very abusive, scary, not worth it thing. Like the comedian, I wish I could remember his name, but he said, I distinctly remember leaving stage, downing like 3 shots, and thinking, that's it, I'm done.
Wow.
And I think the last sentence of his blog or whatever he had written was, because I am excellent and I demand excellence. From the people around me, and I thought, good for you. Yeah. God damn it.
No, that's gutsy. I mean, it's the thing is, like, heckling shouldn't happen, but if it's going to, make it about the material.
Well, now let me talk about the material for a second, because again, in my Amazon.com adventure, which again I love, I could get lost in a wormhole of Amazon.com reviews on anything, because people are fascinating. Some of the comments were that they felt the material was dated. I disagree.
I
feel
disagree.
It's timeless.
Yeah.
But are we not objective on this?
It's possible. It's quite possible.
Because we love Steve Martin so much.
I mean, I wonder what
What's
they're
dated?
saying. Yeah, there's no references.
I mean, the lyrics in Tut are honky, and they're that's dated. But I mean, that's a song,
and it's not even the best
sake.
part of the album.
No, you know what? Surprisingly, it's not, is it?
It's just like that's there again. It's audience, it's fan service, and it's fine. It's not a bad song. It's a fun, goofy song, but it's not the best part.
Yeah, I mean, he talks about Da Vinci and Jean-Paul Sartre, and I mean, like, I don't think that's not really dated.
I
if you
don't think so
that's
too, either.
Dated, you need to
there's so much
educate yourself.
Exactly. And I mean, like,
philosophers,
he there's so many things he could have done. Like, there's not an ounce of it that is, I don't know, like, he doesn't even seem quaintly racist or quaintly sexist. None of that shit happens. You know what I mean?
It's
like,
amazing. Well, he's a little sexist, but only when he's playing a sexist character.
100%. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? The humor is actually very feminist.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But if you're not, again, if you're the person who says Steve Martin seems rather full of himself.
Yeah.
You're going to think that he's a sexist jerk, because you're not going to go that extra mile and go, oh, no, he's actually commenting. That actually brings me, that's a funny story. Again, I will go on tangents, but I just did a production of an all-female Taming the Shrew with Judy Gold.
I was going to ask you about this.
Who, of course, is one of the most brilliant female, well, I don't want to say female, that's not fair, one of the most brilliant stand-up comics, regardless of gender, that we have. And we had this big huge set piece that was mechanical.
Okay.
And, when you're working outside with raccoons and, wind and rain and shit, stuff breaks. And so she was kind of our fail-safe. That if we had, technical difficulties, which did happen frequently, because again, we're outside, what are you going to do? She would go out. Now, she's dressed as a man, and she had chosen to be a very chauvinistic man.
Okay.
For her character. She was Gremio, which is technically, when you do Tammy the Shrew, the dirty old man. But she kind of modeled him a bit after Donald Trump. Okay. And before, this is in the summer. This is before all this crazy stuff came out. She kind of had his number back in May. And she would come out and, technical difficulties, she'd come out and just do this monologue as a sexist sort of Donald Trump rich businessman guy. And there was a woman one night, a young woman, who screamed out, stop.
Oh no.
And we were all confused. We were like, wait, what? She was like, that's sexist. You're sexist. And literally, like, Judy Gold took a sip. She was like, you realize I have tits and a uterus, right? You realize that I'm actually... But it was fascinating to us because of course, all of us in the cast were like, oh my God, who is this girl? Is she drunk? What's going on? How can she not understand? Has she watched this show the whole time and thinking that we're all men? Like, what is that? Like, all of our worlds just flipped.
Woof, holy crap.
No, it was just someone who literally did not understand the whole point of doing an all-female production of one of the most misogynistic, or the most misogynistic play ever written by Shakespeare.
Right. Yeah, can I tell you, I love going, I go to Shakespeare in the Park up here every year, in Griffith Park. I love it so much. It's the best. And when they did Taming of the Shrew, I was like, that's the only time I wish I hadn't come. I'd never seen the play, never read the play. I was like, and then when I found out you were doing that, I'm like, oh, that's the only way to make that show good. This is the only way.
We had
but you all play male characters too, though. Like you switched, like you didn't make them all female characters.
We had two women play women,
right?
The Kate and Bianca, and then all the other characters, which are male, were played by women. The whole company was women. The whole crew was women.
Awesome.
The whole shebang.
Jesus, that's awesome.
Director, choreographer.
What about the raccoons that screwed the stuff up? Were they also women?
I don't think so. But they were there first, so nobody argues with the raccoons. It's just certain death. You don't take on those raccoons.
No, of course.
But speaking as timeless material.
Yes.
It's. I think his stuff is timeless.
I think so too. I mean, I'm welcome to have anybody object to that assertion, but I can't think of anything in there.
Yeah,
maybe besides
I will
the song.
give the lyrics in the song. I will say honky is yes. We won't call that dated.
Yeah.
But no, I mean his stuff about dating and his stuff about what's my name and even some of the less success. I mean, is the whole album like a bullseye? No, but I mean nobody's set ever is. There's always peaks and valleys.
For sure.
And I'm kind of glad because sometimes like you watch these like HBO specials and. You could see that the valleys have been edited out, and it's almost exhausting to watch.
Yeah.
Because I think in a stand-up performance, and I think especially with a brilliant artist like Steve Martin, he's put those valleys in. Yeah. To give the audience a chance to breathe, to recuperate, because any good comedian knows that you can't smash people with punchlines all night long.
For sure.
Because they're gonna peter out. Like if you're doing a comedic scene in the theater or in film and television, you don't try and make every line that you have funny. You try to map it out with whoever you're playing with, and you need, you go, okay, that's a setup, that's a setup, that's a setup, that's a setup, slam, back down.
Right.
And I love kind of the fact on this album that they've left some of the valleys in, which is important just in listening to it. Yeah. Because, if you're constantly, everything's, then everything, you kind of get desensitized to how funny everything is.
For sure. I get that. And even on the second side, which again, like I said, some of the cuts are weird. There are like gaps around the stuff that some of them seem like modular, like just one little piece where it's just like, here's a funny bit and then fade out to another sketch.
Oh, see,
like,
I wish
piece.
I wish I had, like, we had done this like 5 years ago, right before I worked with him, because I would have literally sat him down and been like, okay, brass tacks.
Right, 100%.
Explain this to me.
I'm going to keep trying to get him on the show. I don't care. I know he won't ever do it because he doesn't like to talk about stand-up. But
he doesn't like to talk about himself.
No, yeah, I get that.
I mean, he's incredibly shy.
I'd find a way to frame it. Listen, can we talk about this asshole who's performing stand-up? Because if I got him to talk about the character he was playing as another person, that's the only thing I can think of. Or, yeah, I don't know.
He's very dapper, though. He's a very dapper dresser.
That's interesting.
Which is another fun thing. He's always got his hat and his kind of sear. I mean, again, it was the summer, but he's like seersucker suit in his vest and just always dapper.
That's so good.
But very, 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 like we didn't become chums, but I
Sure.
mean, we had a working relationship. And, you know, even then, like if you saw him coming from down the hall, you know, you'd be like, hi, Steve. And he'd kind of nod his head and be like, oh, hi.
That's the impression I get. Okay.
You know, he's very shy.
Yeah.
God. I mean, you know, except I'm sure with his personal close friends. But
Right.
He doesn't like to talk about himself. I brought up one thing with him, which was random because my brother was obviously a huge fan as well. And I guess he used to hand out these business cards. Do you know this story?
I think. Wait.
He had a whole bunch of, at the height of his fame, he was getting stopped. He couldn't walk down the street in New York and Chicago. And so he made up these business cards that said, hello, you have officially met Steve Martin.
That's right. Yes. Okay.
Because he just, you know, he was shy, and it was a way for him to give something to people. Instead of an autograph, it was a way, you know, just be like, I actually met Steve Martin. I got one of his, it was like Willy Wonka. You know, I got one of the golden tickets. And so I think on a break or whatever, I remember, you know, kind of saying, do you still have those? Do you still hand out those business cards? And I remember him just kind of blushing and going, oh, no. He said, I haven't needed those business cards. And he said, no, that was just a thing that I did for, you know, I don't do that anymore. But it was what was most fascinating was his kind of, he blushed, and it was just sort of this kind of adorable, you know, I think he was like, oh, no. No, I don't have any of those anymore. That was just a joke. And
that's so funny.
But he's
a silent, nerdy type.
He very much is. And my impression of him is, I don't know.
That's
him
everything I've ever heard.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't mean nerdy as an insult. I think then it's perfect that he's doing a parody of gregariousness. Like that's the ultimate thing. Parody of bad comedy, a parody of gregariousness, a parody of things he doesn't want to do and things he might be incapable of except for on stage.
Well, yeah,
you know?
he leans in for sure.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Like even the voice he uses, just like that, like that guttural thing that comes in when he's doing.
Oh, I got a question for you. Identify the accent of the Wild and Crazy Guys, because I was listening to it because I thought this is borderline quote unquote offensive, which is not something he does.
Sure.
So then I was like, who would get upset? Is it Italian? No. Wait.
Right.
Is it Slavic? Wait. No. Well, wait. Is it German? What is it? I realized I can't identify that accent, which again is one more example of his brilliance.
I agree. I think so.
No one can get offended at it because it's not
really.
An accent.
No, I look. They're supposed to be Czech, but it's this goofy version of Eastern Europe. Yeah, but it's like it's not clearly not a real one. No, it's like a goofy.
Because it sounds Italian a lot.
Yeah.
You know, and it's funny too because I remember Rachel Bloom. Our second episode is up tomorrow, and Santino Fontana has a musical number where he's singing an Irish drinking song about not drinking.
Okay,
and it was after she filmed it, and I'm Irish. You know, I'm the Irish person on the show, and it was like a week after she they filmed it. I mean, they had conceived it, they wrote it, they recorded it, like all these hundreds of steps, and like had shot it. It was in the can, and I think she was looking at it. Post she comes up, she goes, "Oh my God, I forgot to ask, is it offensive?" She said, "Oh my God, as an Irish person, are you offended by that song?" She's like, "Oh my God, it's so late. It's too late. Have I offended the entire Irish community?" I was like, "First of all, honey, you can't offend Irish people."
Yeah, right. That's
so
number one.
Good call. If you're gonna pick somebody to make fun of who's gonna have a good sense of humor about it, it's the Irish. We're gonna find that hilarious.
100%.
But it was just funny because that was on my mind because she had such a panic attack about it.
Oh no.
That I went, as I'm listening to it, going, "Oh my gosh, what complaints from what tourism board of what country?" And I was like, you can't really.
You can't. You can pretend. And again, like I said, I had to look it up based on that to see that it was.
Because it was a bit with Dan Aykroyd, right? The Wild and Crazy Guys. And they had those weird
I don't even know if they ever say Czech on. Maybe they do. But, it's clearly, I think there's also the joke that no one in America knows anything about Czech people.
Yeah.
So therefore, the accent could be anything. The attitude could be anything.
Plus, I mean, go back to when was this? How many years ago? 20, 50 years ago or whatever. You know, people were not as, I don't want to say politically correct, but I don't know. People had a higher tolerance, I guess, for that kind of joke. I'm not saying it's okay. I'm just saying if you think 50 years ago what the environment was for those kind of jokes, people people didn't have too much trouble. You know, I'm just thinking though back to that note that he gave me in As You Like It. Now just thinking about the kind of comedian he is actually, I forgot, he's incredibly technical to the point where I almost couldn't figure out what he was saying. It was like, okay, say the line, then lean in, then you put your hand here, and then blah, 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 blah.
Oh my God.
Which is now, I'm, even thinking and talking about the album, I would imagine there's as much technique as we suppose is behind it, even in the effortlessness way and the way he speaks. I would imagine that there's even more than we.
God, that's I thought when you were going to say technical, like I thought you were just going to say a line reading, but
no.
Wow.
No, I remember very distinctly because I remember being so upset that I couldn't catch it.
Okay,
because normally somebody gives you a note, especially Steve Martin. Yeah, you want to be like, oh yeah, got it.
Sure, Steve.
And I remember sitting there like with my partner was Oliver Platt. Oliver Platt and I we played opposite each other.
Holy shit.
So I mean, I think he felt comfortable coming over because obviously he knew Oliver Platt very well. And it was this bit where Oliver had to like put his hand over my shoulder and then graze my, my breast or whatever. It's as you like it.
Yeah, of course.
Body Shakespeare. And he really was. He was like, okay, now you put your hand there, and okay, now you lean in. Now you put your face here. Now you look, and now you say the line. And it was.
God, that's like painting with actors. That's insane.
Exactly. It was very. Wow. Well, he mentions even on this album what a fan he is of Da Vinci. And it's kind of great that. Da Vinci is, of course, the king of a master of many trades.
Sure, yeah.
And in a way, so is Steve Martin.
That's perfect, yeah.
Is he an artist as well? I'm sure he is.
I know he collects a shitload of art and pays a lot of money for art. I don't know if he paints himself.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I wouldn't either. Not at all. God, that's perfect. Do you have... Okay, so let's say somebody... You know what? This is actually easy. People who know Steve Martin now might know him from his movies and even his latter-day movies, not like even The Jerk, like younger people who might be listening. Yeah. What's a good reason to recommend this album to listen to if you've never heard it or even heard his comedy? Maybe you just know his movies.
Well, actually, I think the fact that it's kind of two albums in one, I think is a huge plus because you got the first half, which it appeals to more of the quiet people who appreciate more quiet philosophical comedy. And then the second half, which is much more of his broad, funny voices, strange, seeming tangents, but I doubt it. And then the King Tut. And so I think it's actually a great album if you're not familiar with Steve Martin because it kind of gives you two sides of the same coin. Yeah. In a weird way. You've got him in an intimate setting, which clearly costs $4 to get in. I'd say it sounds like a house of, 70, 80 people? Maybe. Most. Yeah. And then you've got him clearly in a huge house with thousands of people. It sounds like at least 2,000 people to me. So you've got a different energy there. So you kind of got two different Steve Martins. I have a question for you. Yeah. How much time passed between the first half and the second half? Because it sounds to me like a year.
Oh, in terms of when the actual recording? I only found the names of the venues because the first one is... Because
his style is so... Now, granted, he may have adjusted his style from small house to big house, which we all do as actors in the theater. You play to a small house, you do this. Play to a big house, you got to do this. Because you got to hit the back row wherever you are. Yeah. So it might just be two different styles of him working in two different size houses. Yeah. Which is, makes total sense. But it also sounds to me like he'd had enough time to establish those characters on SNL for them to be famous and for him to be getting to a point where he was ready to move on.
Right. Yeah. That's a good question. It didn't say anywhere on Wikipedia.
It feels like at least a year, if not 2, which makes no sense at all.
Right.
Knowing how albums were made back then and how they would, crank them out, especially
and he had 3 albums in a year, if I'm not, or no, not in a year, but one after the other. So that was 77. This is 78, and then Comedy's Not Pretty, I think, is 79.
I just wonder if that stuff from that San Francisco nightclub, because even the way he talks about himself, it doesn't sound like he's established yet. It sounds like he's working a small room.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if that was those old reels, those tapes or whatever. I mean, I wonder if it was just a bunch of reels that he had in his attic or whatever, and then they were putting this album together, especially if he put out a bunch of albums at once.
Right.
And he was like, you know what? We don't have enough material from that big amphitheater that I played. Why don't you throw these reels from when I did the San Francisco gig? It's clear, clearly I'm guessing.
Right.
But when you listen to the album, it's not only a distinct, for me anyway, a distinct difference in the size of the house. It's a distinct difference in style and sort of like an establishment of him and his catchphrases.
Yeah. No, that's true. I know he for sure wrote the joke about that leads into the it had to have been close because he wrote the joke about going to a bigger theater, blah 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 blah, with the intention of then the fade up joke. So I think it had to have been close.
Was that the intention though?
Yeah, or was it a happy accident? From everything I saw.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But again, what I want to do is, like I said, everybody go to taylorjessen.blogspot.com. I think you're going to get a lot more in. There are Monty Python ones too, by the way. There's some of these these great background interviews.
But also, the musical stuff too is always even with Zach Galifianakis. I mean, there's if you add when they add musical elements to anything, and then he went on to do The Jerk with Bernadette Peters, and he sings with her, and I think the musical element is great too, and you can listen to it honestly with your kids around. I listened to this when I was 7, 8 years old. And I loved it. And I did not get half of it, but I still found it funny. And I have a 5-year-old son, and I'm going to go home after this, and I'm going to play him King Tut.
That's awesome.
So it's actually, something you can share with your kids if you have kids, but which is cool because I had never really thought about, I share music with my son, but I hadn't thought about sharing stand-up. And this whole thing brought back what a huge part of my relationship with my brother was just lying on his floor listening to Steve Martin and Monty Python and
that's good,
and all that stuff. And it's a great, I don't know, it's something to share with your family.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Where can we find you online? What do you have to promote? I know what you have to promote.
I am on a show called Crazy Ex-Girlfriend.
Yes, indeed.
On the CW, which is network. Everyone thinks it's on cable. It is not. It's network. You don't need a cable package. You get it on your TV. So that's, the good news. We're in our 2nd season. Our lead, Rachel Bloom, is phenomenal, and she's won a whole bunch of awards. She's won a Golden Globe, Critics' Choice. Our show just won 2 Emmys.
Awesome.
So, we're fancy.
Yep.
But it's super funny, and we have music on the show. And so if you dig comedy and interspersed with music, you would totally dig our show, and you should watch it.
It's my favorite show on TV.
And we've got for real bona fide singers and dancers and people from the Broadway and people from the West Coast and people from all over, people from Chicago. We've got Pete Gardner's from the stand-up circuit in Chicago, and we do a lot of improv on the show. So a lot of that stuff ends up in the final take. And Rachel's did she do UCB?
Good question. I think so. Yeah.
I know her husband is still very much Dan Greger,
right? Who
is also a writer on our show,
right?
But yeah, so that's what I'm promoting.
Yeah.
Up until recently, I had a website, but I let it go. It was so embarrassing that the upkeep on it was so humiliatingly old.
Pain in the ass. Yeah.
I actually just got rid of it. I thought, you know what? I just can't. It's an albatross at this point.
It's okay. You're on an Emmy-winning show now.
I know. It just made me look like, I just thought, this isn't making me look good. I have a kid. I can barely get up in the morning.
Twitter? Are you on Twitter?
I'm on Twitter. I believe I should know this, shouldn't I?
I should
know
it.
What is
it? I'm the
is
host
it DL
of the friggin'
Champlin?
show. I think so. That sounds right.
I joined the Twitter when our show started last year.
Okay.
merely because the show was afraid that if I didn't establish myself on Instagram and Twitter, that somebody who watched the show, friend or foe, might create something in my name, and they didn't want that to happen. So, I'm still new to it, but I do participate in it, especially when we live tweet our episodes.
That's awesome.
Which are Friday nights at 9. Unless we're shooting. I was on the set on our premiere last week. So was Rachel. We were both like, and the show's happening. I hope it's good. But yeah, every Friday night there's usually at least 1 or 2 or 3 cast members who are live tweeting. So that's super fun. So that's hashtag Crazy Ex-Girlfriend.
Awesome. Yes, you are DL Champlin.
Is that okay? Good.
You're
and my
100%
Instagram
correct.
is unnecessarily complicated because I just didn't know what the hell I was doing when I created it. It's something ridiculous like Donna, then lower slash. What do you call that?
Underscore.
Underscore, really? Underscore as in music underscore?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Donna underscore Lynne with an E underscore Champlin.
Okay.
It's unnecessarily long, but
I also lied earlier. We've had 4 people from the show on the podcast.
who else? You had Rachel, me.
Aileen, and then Jack Dolgen also was on the show.
Jack.
Through Rachel.
Isn't he awesome? What albums I know what Rachel did. What did Aileen and Jack do?
She picked Fiddler on the Roof, which, it's got some comedy
Aileen?
stuff in it. Yeah, she did.
I love it.
Yeah, and then Jack picked one of the 2,000-Year-Old Man albums. I think it was the first one.
Brilliant.
Yeah, it was so much fun talking with him.
You know
about
Mel Brooks, Rachel is a huge fan. She wanted him to be on the show, and he was unfortunately unable to do it due to obviously schedule. He's got a million things to do, but he called her personally.
Holy shit.
And we have this. I'm sure she'll put it on Twitter at some point when it was because we were shooting, and she was all of a sudden she was like, "Oh my God, I have to take a break. I'm sorry," and like we were like, "Oh my God, is she okay?" And then 10 minutes later, she comes back and she's like, I just talked to Mel Brooks for like 10 minutes.
Oh, my God.
And there's a beautiful picture. I don't know who took it. I think it might have been Aileen, of her like sitting outside in the parking lot. Like she looks like she's 10 years old. And the look on her face is just, so yeah, it's fitting that Jack would have picked one of those albums because everybody's a crazy Mel Brooks fan.
No doubt about it. And well, it couldn't have happened to a nicer person. And I mean, I think we can all agree my podcast is the reason she's now famous. I'm just so happy to have helped with that. Fuck me, that would be the worst thing to claim. God damn it.
No, everything helps. Everything is a part of it. I didn't know we could pick musical albums.
Anything that came out on vinyl. I will tell you. I mean, I broke the rules I let her talk about her own album. Once.
Who, Rachel?
Yeah, because I'm like, I wanted to come back on the show, and she's so much fun. And honestly, it's one of my favorite comedy albums ever. Hers is so brilliant.
Oh well, then I'm going to send you a copy of my album. I did just stand up, but
I don't care.
Oh my God, I want to come back and talk about something musical theater because that's like
I kind of thought that's what you would pick. I thought that's what you would pick.
The email that I got was like it seemed to be very expressly stand up.
Oh, okay. No,
vinyl.
See, that it can be anything.
But I was thrilled.
As long as it's a funny show, that's all that matters.
Oh no, this is but this is great though because it really I have to thank you for kind of bringing me down this trip to memory lane because my brother and I have been talking about it.
That's
and then
good. Awesome.
It's actually been great. I mean everything works out for the way it's supposed to, but I want to come back and I'll pick has anyone done Drowsy Chaperone with you yet? Talk about meta.
Do
you know that show?
I don't. No.
Okay, all I'm gonna say is the whole show is about a man called Man in Chair who takes his most prized vinyl recording of a musical from like 1920, and the whole musical is about him discussing the album of this musical called The Drowsy Chaperone. It's like this meta upon meta upon meta.
I had no idea that's what that was about. I've heard of it, but that's great.
Oh my God, it's so funny.
That would be fun.
It's one of the funniest shows I've ever seen.
That's awesome.
Okay.
Well, you should come back.
Oh,
Definitely
good.
come back.
All right, good.
Thank you guys for listening. I want you to, I don't know when this is going to come out yet, but go to lookingforwardmovie.com. That's the movie I've been doing since March, one blog at a time. It'll be cut into something real next year, but right now we're about 11 hours worth of blogs for you to watch. Follow us at Comedy on Vinyl. Follow me at Klamm, JKLAMM on Twitter. And that's about it. Thank you guys for listening. Donna Lynne, thank you so much for coming.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
And as always, have a good thing. Comedy on Vinyl is a production of Stolen Dress Entertainment. It is produced by Mike Warden and is hosted and edited by Jason Klamm. Our theme song was composed and performed by Richard Levinson. Please visit stolendress.com to listen to our other podcasts, read our blogs, read our tweets, watch our videos, and read our books. Please subscribe on iTunes, and if you like us, give us a 5-star rating and a nice review. You can find us on Facebook.com/ComedyOnVinyl, Twitter @ComedyOnVinyl, and find everything else at ComedyOnVinyl.com. A major portion of Comedy on Vinyl has been underwritten by Stand Up Records. Please visit StandUpRecords.com for all your comedy needs and tune into the new Stand Up channel available on the Roku, where you can also find select episodes of this podcast. In 2012, Stolen Dress Entertainment brought you the feature-length mockumentary Looking Forward, the story of one 24-year-old man's presidential campaign, 12 years in advance of eligibility, and 16 years in advance of a good slogan. Now, in 2016, in anticipation of an historic election season, Stolen Dress Entertainment brings you the sequel, Looking Forward, 2016. 14 of the story's central characters will present video blogs, bringing you their side of the story. On the day following the election in November, the strangest, most unorthodox film sequel in history will be completed. Visit lookingforwardmovie.com to see every video as it is posted and to watch the original film for free. Subscribe to the channels you like, retweet the characters, and share your thoughts on the Looking Forward page on Facebook. Looking Forward 2016. One campaign in pieces.